Hello and welcome to episode 256 of Retro Encounter, RPG Fans Off-Topic Weekly Podcast. I'm Mike Sollosi, and today we are going to break your hearts and confuse and confound you and probably die in the end, because this episode is all about traitors and betrayals. If you know this TV show that the title quote comes from, then I like you more than I did before. But let's talk about four people who I already do like quite a bit, starting with Zach Wilkerson.
Hi there.
And Nathan Lee.
Hello, everyone.
And Alana Hagues.
Hey, everyone.
And making her podcast debut, Niki Fakhoori.
Hello.
So, I'm here with four people from the RPG Fan Reviews crew, total coincidence, but we're not here to talk about reviews or any game in particular. We want to talk about betrayals. Like, a betrayal or a real dark character turn is the kind of plot twist that is, I don't know, memorable or even legendary. Like, it's almost become an internet joke, top 10 anime betrayals. I think it's very doable to have an entire podcast episode on them. So, starting with you, Alana, what's something about a betrayal plot twist that, you know, something that you think makes a good one or is particularly interesting about them?
I mean, I think the thing I like about them is that a lot of the time when you play games with friends, it's really fun to try and work out who it might be, and I'm a big fan of the Tales games, and that's always kind of the draw of them, is like, oh no, which one's gonna betray you? But generally, like, I've always really loved them because I think when they're done really well, they can really flip the script on things, and it gives you a chance to, like, reassess that character and kind of reassess everything that's happened over the past 20 hours, and, like, you can really deep dive into them, and there are sometimes some really interesting reasons for them turning their back on you, and I like studying characters, so it's a really fun chance to do that. But yeah, I'm a big fan of digging them out, and sometimes not digging them out and just trying to figure out why they're doing it.
I definitely know a thing or two about looking at a character and in the first minute thinking, well, you're gonna die or turn evil.
Yeah.
So, Nathan, what do you look for in a good video game traitor?
Like, it gives you a chance to reevaluate that character was, like, it allows you to replay the game and kind of look for, like, the kind of tells that they had throughout the game as to when and how they're going to betray you.
So, Zach, one thing that Nathan said was looking for tells, and especially when re-experiencing a game, and that strikes me as foreshadowing. And as an English educator, how important is foreshadowing to plot twists like betrayals?
I think foreshadowing is important, of course. But I think that the thing that sticks out to me about it is, like, if they have a good reason to do it. And there is one on our list that I will definitely call early. But for me, I'm always engaged by characters who still are like decent humans after they do it in their own way. And it kind of goes along with what Alana and Nathan were saying as well. But, people who are still engaging in ways, like, not for reasons of being evil, but for reasons of, like, how does your version of good differ from my version of good?
Right on. And Niki, we've talked about foreshadowing. We talked about like how these are among the most exciting kinds of plot twists. What do you think is the difference between a betrayal or a big character turn being earned versus not feeling right?
I feel like if it's not extreme enough, it doesn't feel as earned. Either it has to be someone that you really hated from the beginning, so it's satisfying to be proven right and then go and kick them in the shins later, or you had to have really loved them and, like you were already saying, you know, they're justified in their betrayal, but that makes it hurt all the more, so then you have a big sad.
Yeah. The loved one is one I suffer from too many times on this list, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going over this list that we have. We're working off of a Google Doc that has at least 20 entries on it. We're not going to get to all 20. But for the rest of the bones of this podcast, we're going to basically just take turns talking about games or individual traitors, and just talk about what we like and dislike about each of them, and just have fun talking about or getting our hearts broken. And it goes without saying that there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this episode. Like, character turns and betrayals are as spoilery as spoilers get. So we're going to try and provide a spoiler warning, before every single game we talk about. Like, we're not going to go, okay, Final Fantasy IV, how about that Kain? Which definitely just breaks the rule I just established. But we're going to try and do a pause in between each one, in case you, the listener, don't know every single RPG that's ever been made and maybe want to avoid spoilers. I understand. So let's just get on with the list. You know what? I already said it. Let's talk about Final Fantasy first. Because for me, at least the first video game traitor I remember encountering was Kain from Final Fantasy IV. And this series has a lot going ahead. So, all right. Spoilers for every Final Fantasy game other than 4 going here on out.
Okay!
So, Kain leaves your party or mysteriously disappears only to return, or betrays you straight up. I want to say 3.5 or 4 times in FF4.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And as a result, it feels like you never should trust him, but also makes him the coolest character in the game because of how cool and unpredictable he is.
He is the coolest character in the game.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I might have my Final Fantasy XIV character main for a reason.
I mean, the FF14 Dragoons may all look exactly like Kain for a reason.
Yeah. I think that the thing I love about Kain, I mean, he betrays you over and over again because he's controlled by Golbez, of course. But I also like that the whole subtext with Rosa throughout the course of the game,
right.
And how that is never like the reason for his betrayal, that he loves Rosa, but that he is able, like Golbez is able to like pull that out of him and make that his reason for it. I think. I mean, it's never made 100% clear, even in any of the versions that I've played, and I've played all the versions of Final Fantasy IV. But I love that there is that little subtext to him.
Yeah,
well.
I think it's the inner darkness in him that he's jealous of Cecil, in love with Rosa, maybe resentful of what Cecil has. That sort of allows Golbez to get inside his head and betray him, because there's at least a kernel of Kain wanting to fight Cecil, like for him to exploit. And it's not always clear in the text of the game, but what is extremely clear in the text of the game is that Kain will leave and fight you and rejoin you and leave again a bunch of times. So what else in the Final Fantasy series do we think qualifies for our list? And I don't want to get too granular over what counts as a traitor or not. Like, as long as they're a important NPC or a player character that does a surprising character turn that has them at least working against the heroes for part of the game, that's enough.
I mean, does Cat Shi even qualify as a surprising betrayal?
Oh, he definitely does, doesn't he? I just mean, it's like a...
It's been so long, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's a little out of the blue when he joins your party, but he's been with you so long that it is a little bit surprising that he straight up steals an important item from you and hands it to the enemy.
Exactly, but then, like, within, hours, he sacrifices himself to save you because, well, you know, he's disposable.
And I know that Cat Shi is the right way to say it, but I'm still going to say Kate Sith, just because I'm a moron whose brain hasn't quite left 1997. But I mean, the betrayal is there, but I'm not sure if it was that shocking or interesting enough, because he rejoins you right afterwards.
Yeah.
And sacrifices himself right afterwards, and then right after that he comes back in a new body like nothing happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess Reeve, who is operating Cat Shi in the background, I'm going to be annoying and say it the right way the whole time. He's the one who's trying to leave Shinra because he doesn't agree with what they're doing to the planet and how they're harnessing the planet's energy, right? So, like, you know, Cat Shi deceives you, but at the same time, Reeve is also struggling with this idea that actually, no, I want to work with Cloud and the party because they're doing the right thing.
So it looks like Cat Shi, Kate Sith, is betraying the party, but really it's Reeve betraying Shinra and joining the party. So it's like a double turn.
Kinda, but the black materia is handed over for the reason. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the bad reason.
Now that's a character. We saw a little bit of Reeve, but nothing of Ketshi in FF7 Remake. And so when we get FF7 Remake the second in year TBD, I'm really interested to see how they handle that character, because he was scripted annoying 23 years ago, and I mean, with a script as good as the remakes was, with voice acting as thorough as it was, I gotta see how they treat that character. That's going to be really interesting.
I mean, are they going to keep him Scottish? That's the real thing.
from compilation.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can we get Leona to audition, or is it too late?
I don't know. I think it might be a bit late.
That's a shame. So we have Final Fantasy Tactics on this list too, and Zach, I'm curious. Do we want to talk about Delita, or talk about Gafgarion, or everyone?
Everyone.
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, Argath. I mean,
yeah.
Oh shoot, him.
Also, I mean, I think he is like a pure evil traitor, but like he betrays you because he thinks you're betraying the cause. So that makes Argath sort of interesting on that front.
But his cause is supporting the nobility in a class struggle, and also a little bit of racism thrown in.
Right.
So I mean, Niki said at the beginning of the episode that some of the best traders are ones that are satisfying to finally take down, and Argath, who was called Algus in the old translation of FF Tactics. Oh man, it's like hearing that blood-curdling FF Tactics scream when you finally kill him is just the best.
It's great.
But I think the ultimate traitor, but not really traitor, which is my favorite kind of traitor, is Delita.
It's exactly what you were talking about earlier. It's the means to justify an end, isn't it? What's the right kind of? It's his kind of justice. Like, it's his kind of revenge on the world for what happened to his sister, how the people treat the commoners, and everything. And it's just, the only way I'm going to do it is by changing the system inside out and getting to the top myself, and I'll do whatever I have to do to get there. And yeah. He's amazing. Oh my god.
He's an incredible character.
Delita is one of the all-time great Final Fantasy characters, but I mean, he's almost more manipulator than traitor.
Yeah.
Because he sort of betrays Ramza's group. Ramza's the main character. And starts going off on his own thing. It looks like he's working for one side of the nobility fighting, but then betrays them, and it turns out he's been working with these underground temple knights for the whole time, but then he betrays them and sort of sets Ramza's group against the temple knights for them to sort of destroy each other, and then he marries the princess and becomes king at the end of the game. It's some pretty amazing political machinations that Delita does, but I'm not, like, he definitely betrays people. I'm not sure if he ever betrays Ramza, though, because sort of to the end, he's counting on Ramza to beat the Temple Knights and save the world, and he helps him at times. It's a really complicated, interesting friendship that they have.
Yeah, but that's like the most interesting kind of story, isn't it? Like, I don't think I'd like it if it was just a black and white, oh, I'm going to betray you, Ramza, but, instead, in fact, he, manipulates, he's friends with Ramza and wants him to survive, but at the end of the day, he's still using him as a stepping stone to get to where he wants to get, right? Like, it's just, it's nasty, but he does it, and you're kind of rooting for him.
Yeah, he's a manipulator.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a manipulator, but I think that Ramza would do what he's doing regardless, probably.
Yes.
I'm not sure that Delita is really pressing him that way. I think that Delita is just so much smarter than everyone else that he recognizes what Ramza is doing, and he's like, okay, let me see what my friend is doing as being something that is righteous, and I'm going to play off of that, and he's just like sort of sitting over it. I mean, like, he betrays other people, certainly the princess. He betrays her pretty badly, but he is master manipulator, but I think with Ramza in particular, he's not really manipulating Ramza. He's trying to say, like, hey, just, like, let me do my thing.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, so I don't want to stick too long in any one topic, so I think we're ready to move on. Nathan, what is a game or series whose traitors we should discuss next?
Well, since Fire Emblem's already on the list, why don't we go with that?
Okay!
Sure. Now, I guess we're talking about Fire Emblem Path of Radiance with the whole Black Knight situation, right?
Well, we could talk about that too, but I was thinking more writing down how, like, I'm not sure like you would call her a traitor, but how often Jill is able to switch
If
sides.
I remember correctly, Jill is the only Fire Emblem character who can permanently leave your party, and you have to kill her if she speaks to her father.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And you also have Naysala selling out the herons, and Sephirin, everything with Sephirin.
Yep.
It's a wild ride.
Yeah, the Telltale's games are basically like, I don't want to call it Game of Thrones with the amount of intrigue that happens, but there's a lot of political stuff that happens.
Yeah, I've played Path of Radiance, but not
That's why I love it so
Radiant
much.
Dawn. And my understanding is Radiant Dawn really, like, the story sort of explodes, but some of the maps are terrible, and there's weird difficulty spikes. But Fire Emblem fans mostly defend it still.
Yeah. Radiant Dawn was like I say it every single time. I call it a puzzle game in SRPG form because I feel like if you don't make the right moves, then you'll just lose characters. It just feels that way sometimes. And some of the maps are just gigantic. Like, it takes like 10 turns to get across the whole map. 100 enemies sometimes. I remember a couple of maps. But anyway, I remember talking about Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn with someone else recently, and I'm trying to remember how many times that Jill swaps sides in the game, because she's torn between staying with her friends from the mercenaries, but then also influenced by the new faction, the Dawn Brigade. So she ends up like flip-flopping back and forth if you talk to her with certain characters.
That's weird. Yeah, I've played 6 or 7 different Fire Emblem games. I don't remember any other situation like that. Almost every Fire Emblem game has something called the Navarre character, who's named after the Fire Emblem 1 version of this, but Navarre always starts as a member of the enemy army, but if you talk to them with a certain character before they accidentally kill themselves, they join your party, which is almost not exactly a betrayal to the player, but a version of betrayal. like every Fire Emblem game, you gain a traitor from the other side.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I feel like
it's Guy in Fire Emblem 7 and Joshua in Fire Emblem 8. Oh boy, I'd have to check a list to properly identify them all. But I haven't played a new Fire Emblem game since Fate, which is probably something I'd rather forget.
Yeah. Let's see. Echoes had you can get Sonia or I think
Dean.
was it Jesse? I think you could get from.
I always preferred Jesse to Dean in the Fire Emblem Gilmore Girls edition.
Three Houses has a few too. Like, I feel like even if you don't like recruit them before the first half of the game, you can still get them later, because the game will just be like, oh, you defeated them with main character, so you have a chance to recruit them.
Is that really a betrayal? This is not important. Fire Emblem has a lot of characters, and sometimes they're traitors. but especially Jill, it seems, because I think I remember Jill from Path of Radiance, but she didn't really have any indication that she would be a multiple turncoat just from the text of that game. Am I remembering it wrong? Because it's been a decade.
When Jill starts out, she's pretty racist towards the Hagues because that's how she was brought up. But through interactions with the rest of the army and in base conversations, she learns, to overcome that, and she realizes that, she was wrong, but that still affects her because her father is still on the opposing side, which is why you don't want her to talk to her dad, because in the end she still really loves her father and she will turn on you if you give her that opportunity.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, you did mention that before, but that's an interesting angle, huh? Her father wasn't in Path of Radiance, though. This is all Radiant Dawn.
No, that's Path of Radiance.
That's
you
Path
have
of
to kill
Radiance?
him no matter what.
Oh, damn. Okay, maybe I should replay Path of Radiance, because I played that thing in the late 2000s, and I don't remember all of it, apparently.
That's okay. I don't remember most games I've played a few months ago, so you're fine.
I'm at least able to remember Final Fantasy games that I played 25 years ago. That's something, I guess.
I feel like you remember games from your youth.
Yeah, it also helps that I've played Final Fantasy IV, like, every time it gets released on a new system.
You've got more opportunities.
What, eight
Fire Emblem
times?
wasn't stuck. Those two games weren't stuck on the Wii and the GameCube, and like $150 each. I think
Yep.
they'd be more accessible.
They're both rare now. I mean, that sounds like a double pack Switch port if I've ever heard one.
Exactly. That's right, Nintendo. Let's go.
Oh, I'm sure Nintendo listens to this
Nintendo with that,
podcast.
for sure.
Yeah, good old Bobby Nintendo, who listens to Retro Encounter every week, takes all of our advice.
Sorry.
So, let's see. Zach, what's another gamer series we should cover?
Oh, we all know what I'm going to talk about, right?
Is it Lunar?
Yep.
Squeak it in.
Oh, never mind. Okay, that was my second guess.
I mean, I might go there later.
Okay!
You know, and I feel bad to talk about some of these because I know some of you haven't played some of the later Suikoden games. So we'll start with the first two, and we'll see where we go from there. I mean, I feel like Suikoden 2 has, in my opinion, and I'm very biased, my favorite traitor, who is Joey. And he's really, I know that Joey and Delita get compared a lot, and I am guilty of that comparison quite frequently.
I think it's a fair comparison because of the kinds of characters each of them are, but but they're both excellent. And if anything, Joey is slightly like Dark Delita.
Yeah, I mean, he genuinely betrays you, and he tries to murder you at some point. Like, he does not have, unlike Delita, he doesn't have your best interests or your cause in mind once he betrays you. But he still has his own cause that I think is, even though I disagree with it, and I think we as the player disagree with him as well, that is worthy of consideration and worthy of thought, you know, in terms of like gathering people together as like a Highland kingdom. So I think that his betrayal is also heavily foreshadowed, as we talked about earlier, but it's also really shocking how he does it, by murdering, Annabelle's her name, right? Gosh, I can't believe I'm asking that question, right?
Yeah, the mayor of that, the large, walled city.
Muse,
yeah. That's it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it also maybe is the one that hurts the most on this list for me. Like, you've already got the character dynamic between Ryo, Nanami, and Joey built up so much, and you can see them as a family unit so strong. So to have the, like, older sibling, well, he's not older anyway, but, like, to have him do that, like, it breaks Nanami's heart, and she tries to bring him back multiple times. And of course you've got little Pilika as well, who's the little girl that you rescue from the village that's burnt down at the beginning, which I can't remember the name of, but every time she sees Joey, yes, that's it. So every time she sees Joey, she, like, completely loses it and is like, oh, Joey and Uncle Joey, and it's like, oh my god, every time it gets me.
Yeah, especially since following the destruction of her village, she has been sort of traumatized into total muteness. So, like, seeing her come alive again in the presence of Joey when he's no longer fighting on the same side as you just makes the whole Joey, Ryo, Pilika situation more heart-wrenching. And Zach was talking about the causes at odds here. Like, in FF Tactics, Delita wanted the current monarchy and nobility to fall and then take over as a new king that would be just towards the poor and do the right thing. Well, in this one, it's more that Joey joins the evil invaders because he thought they had the best chance to win and could restore order. Like he's more in favor of order versus in favor of justice or doing what's right. And he's willing to defeat, kill, even massacre the quote-unquote good guys of Suikoden 2 to achieve those ends, which is like, again, similar goals to Delita, because he wants to sort of take over and make the world a better place, but a much darker, much more, identifiably evil version of what Delita does.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Joey certainly he gets forgiveness from the game that I'm not sure that I would give him if you get the true ending as a result. And so I certainly think that, and in the true ending, he does something evil there too. He abandons Giulio. And he could have laid down his arms earlier once he recognizes it. So he becomes consumed by the reason that he moves to the other side in a way that he had to know by the end wasn't in his best interest, but he kept pushing forward with it anyway. And I think that is the distinction. Delita is 1,000 times smarter than Joey, even though Joey is very smart, which makes him, I think, maybe more tragic in some ways.
I'm mad at Joey because in the true ending, instead of bringing along Pilika and the princess with them as they ride off into the sunset, he leaves them alone.
Yep.
Right.
Why couldn't Pilika join them? Why? I'm still upset about it. So Zach, who besides Joey do we want to discuss from the Suikoden series?
I'm going to leave 5 off the table because I feel like some of you deserve to experience that for yourself. I am sincere.
I edited
Suikoden 1.
I edited the Suikoden 5 episodes, so I think I know who you're referring to, but we can go to Suikoden 1 instead.
We could talk about Suikoden 1 instead. I mean, Pawn, I think, is a great... I think that Suikoden does traitors really well, because the Suikoden 5 traitor, I won't name the person... for those of you who haven't played yet, because I just know you want to. But that particular character does a phenomenal job of having a great reason for betrayal. And Suikoden 1, I think, it's not as complex as Joey or the Suikoden 5 traitor, but I think that Pawn, who betrays you in Suikoden 1, has a reason. I mean, it's because he's loyal to your father. Because those of you who haven't played Suikoden 1, you play Tur McDole, who is the son of one of the 5 great generals of, it's called the Scarlet Moon Empire. And Pawn is one of your friends, and you eventually sort of betray the Empire because you think it's evil, and then Pawn betrays you to General McDole. And so I think that he is a character who you have compassion for in that situation. And I think that Suikoden, all of them have traitors, but the 3 best ones are 1, 2, and 5, of having just phenomenal reasoning behind why they go against you. I actually think that Joey is the most evil of the 3 of those people. Alana, I know you've played Suikoden 1. Right?
I'd actually sort of forgotten a little bit, unfortunately.
All right, fair enough.
I know.
Suikoden traitor is good.
And I mean, Joey is the big highlight traitor from Suikoden 2, but there's a lot of different organizations and people within them betraying each other. Like that Northern Kingdom that sort of becomes a surprise villain in the last few hours of the game, when they had been neutral for most of the game, and just 2 of their generals...
Harmonia?
Yeah, I think so. And 2 of their generals betrayed their king to join you, only for that kingdom to, do something unforgivable right near the end of the game. But it's...
Oh, Matilda.
Yeah, okay, I was thinking of Matilda. But it's not just as easy as Joey betrays you. It's more that people are betraying each other a lot all the time, and there are but Joey is sort of the highlight one from Suikoden 2.
Yeah. Unfortunately, none of these betrayals really match the title of this episode. They're not really anime betrayals. Anime
is not in the title, but top 10 anime betrayals is a phrase you've seen thrown around a lot.
It is, yeah.
So, Niki, I don't think you've chosen one yet. What's something from the list that we absolutely have to discuss?
Oh, I think you know.
Oh.
It's Bravely Default, Where the Fairy Flies.
Okay!
All right, now, I'm going to start this off saying that Where the Fairy Flies is the English title, and Flying Fairy was the Japanese title. And in both versions, if you hang on to the title screen for a few extra seconds, some of the words fade out. And in the English version, it says airy lies, and in the Japanese version, it says lying airy.
What?
Because there's a, like you could say the Navi of this game is a little fairy that accompanies your party named Airy. And Airy is, encouraging, telling you, oh, we need to go to this crystal, we need to do this next. And it's just being a very encouraging little happy fairy for most of the game. But Niki, what happens exactly?
She's like I don't remember the exact details, but listen, she's just bad. She's bad. She's lying to you. She wants to, bring back the Ouroboros guy to kill everybody, to destroy all the universes. Hungry Snake wants to eat all the universes. And Airy wants for Hungry Snake to eat all the universes. She's not nice. She's very bad.
Agreed. And to bring some extra clarity, because this is a game I was obsessed with for a month right when I got my 3DS for the first time. Bravely Default is a world with multiple universes or multiple dimensions. And when you think you've solved the problem, and by it's either destroying or activating all the crystals. I forget which. It sort of takes you back to the beginning of the game again, and I mean, Tiz and the other main characters are like, "Hey, what gives? This is strange. We've already done all this." And every time, and it makes you do that 3 times. You have to repeat certain parts of the plot. Not every single detail that happened. Like the very first run before restarting is like more than half of the game. But there's a part where you have to visit all the crystal dungeons and repeat parts of the plot, I think 4 times in a row. And it looks like, and the reason of this is because what you're doing is actually sort of ending one universe and beginning in a new one, which is Aery's goal from the beginning. Aery wants you to Aery has been guiding heroes through every single universe until you get down to Universe 0, so her boss, Ouroboros, can sort of consume every single universe at once and then begin the world in his own image or something. But the crazy part is at the beginning of the game, like, Aery's wings have a design on them that looks like a 5, and every time you go to a new universe, a different number is on Aery's wings. So if you pay attention in the menus of the game and in cutscenes where Aery is present, you can sort of see yourself counting down until the final conflict. It's wild. Again, like, I mean, I use the comparison Navi from Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. It's like if Navi ended up being the special agent of Ganon the whole time.
Oh my god. I actually had no idea that Bravely Default... I knew it was meta to a degree because I knew about the replaying bits, but I didn't get far enough. I got a third of the way through and sort of gave up. But I had no idea the fairy on the front cover was Aery. What? I'd forgotten that. I was like, what?
And also at the end, maybe my favorite part of the ending sequence of Bravely Default is basically while you're fighting Ouroboros, it's like heroes from all of the universes that have been linked together are going to help you, and it goes into your friends list, and their Bravely Default characters from alternate universes like all encourage you and fight with you in the final battle.
That's quite cool, actually.
Yeah, it goes into your friends list and I think also your street pass list.
I don't have many friends on my 3DS, so oh well.
For me, it was a bunch of random street passes from Magfests of years past. I think is what a lot of it came from. But yeah, a hell of a traitor, and maybe my favorite part of it. And I hope you can attest to this, Niki, is when you finally get to fight Aery. Hours, like after playing the game for 60 plus hours, and at least 10 hours after you realize she's evil. You finally get to fight her and shut her down, and she has special boss music that is one of the best tracks in the whole game. Wicked Flight.
Yeah, Wicked Flight, that's a good one.
That song rules. It's like 9 minutes, but a whole 8.5 of them are bangers. So yeah, sorry if we inadvertently spoiled a big part of Bravely Default for everyone, but that betrayal and that endgame and meta commentary is kind of why the game is awesome and just goes beyond being a Final Fantasy V like random battle class changing game.
Well, that's what makes it interesting, right? I remember when the game was first announced for Japan, and it had the flying fairy subtitle. Everyone was like, "Oh, FF," because it's like Final Fantasy. But if you take away the 2 Fs, what are you left with?
Lying,
because it's not Final Fantasy, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Yeah, even the title is a clever meta commentary on RPGs. So, Alana, if your brain's recovered from having its mind blown, what's a suggestion for a game or series we should discuss next?
Well, I'm going to make a link because Ouroboros seems to have come up, so I think it's time to talk about the Trails series.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We'll start from first chapter because I think first chapter is the beginning, and really the end game of Trails in the Sky first chapter is where the betrayal becomes kind of apparent. So for most of the game, you're just Estelle and Joshua traveling La Burle, doing bracer jobs, but it becomes apparent early on that there are some like political ongoings. There's this group of Jaegers going around, there's a mysterious organization. But then you get to Grand Seoul, which is the capital city, and you find out that the leader of the intelligence division, who has popped up a few times to kind of take his glory, Colonel Alan Richard, is trying to overthrow the castle and is trying to take over He's being manipulated by Ouroboros in the background. I don't think you find that out until second chapter because they're not revealed until second chapter, correct?
Yeah, yes. Ouroboros is the secret organization that is behind all of the wrongdoing in every Trails game from 2004 to present day.
Right, yeah. And so, Alan Richard he's basically tricked into it because he's told that something will happen, and if you don't act upon this, then you'll lose the country, or you will go into war again, or something like that. I don't remember the specifics, but they basically tricked him into using his honor in a different way. I think, to spoil later games, Colonel Richard does get a redemption arc in the third specifically, and he does pop up at the end of second chapter, if I remember correctly. I think he's an interesting character. I don't think that first chapter gives him his dues because he kind of just pops up here and again, and it's like, oh, you're so cool.
No, he's not. He's not even the third traitor we want to talk about for Trails. This is ongoing.
Oh no, definitely. This series has a few of them, and Zero and Owl have some as well. But I haven't played those games yet, so I'm not going to go into any of them. But
now we can stick to Sky and Cold Steel, because what happens at the end of after you defeat Alan Richards' group? What happens at the end of first chapter?
Oh god, yeah. This is a major spoiler. So there's a cliffhanger ending. So mute for a bit if you don't want to hear it, or skip ahead. You go and get ice cream for Joshua, and Joshua's sitting there. And there's this professor who's been following you around the country for the whole game. And he suddenly does a full face heel turn and reveals himself to be one of the highest members of Ouroboros, this secret organization that you've only just found out about, called Weissman. And he's the third Anguis, I want to say, or the second Anguis.
I think he's the second Anguis.
Yeah. And
Ouroboros is led by a Grandmaster, and then 7 sub-commanders called Anguises, and then a bunch of special agents called Enforcers.
21. There's 21 for the Tarot deck.
Right, okay.
Yes, so Weissman, you find out that Weissman has actually had a mind spell on Joshua, and Joshua ended up in the care of the Bright family when he tried to assassinate Cassius Bright. He was kept by Cassius Bright to try and kind of look after him and nurture him, but secretly Joshua was planted there as a spy and was secretly giving information back to Ouroboros the whole time without realizing it. And Weissman shows him his past and all of this to him, and Joshua leaves in a dramatic fashion, shall we say, after finding this out. This is a very, very redacted version of it, but it's tough to watch, put it that way.
Yeah, but seeing Joshua betray Estelle and the reveal that Professor Alba is this evil Ouroboros guy named Weissman is huge, and it's mostly resolved because you defeat Weissman at the end of Sky 2, and Joshua and Estelle reconcile. But the chain combo reveals that Alan Richard is behind the coup in the capital city, and that Alba was an Ouroboros Anguis, and Joshua was an Ouroboros Enforcer, and they might be the central villains of the next game, is just completely wild, and only matched in wildness by everything that happens in Cold Steel.
Oh boy, yeah. I think at the very least the betrayal in Cold Steel is way more telegraphed. I think if you're it's not
Which one?
Oh, well, I'm talking about the main one.
Yes. Okay, I figured.
Yeah. One of your party members, Crow Armbrust, I think that one is at least more telegraphed because, by virtue of Sky First Chapter being the first game, I suppose, but also, Crow has many traits that I associate with traitor characters. Like, he's sleazy, he's a little bit easygoing, he knows too much, he disappears at certain points, and...
Yeah, he's aloof and has slightly droopy eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets unusually buddy-buddy with the main character in a way that seems a little forward.
Definitely.
But we should mention, Trails of Cold Steel is mostly about this, a class in the military school, and I think it's 8 kids plus their teacher, and plus they have 4 senior classmates or senpai, and one of the senpai, Crow, joins the main class in the second half of the game. But basically, you spend hours and hours just getting close with your class and traveling the country and learning about the country and also sort of seeing the edges of a brewing conflict between the nobles and the commoners. And there's also a terrorist organization that has been trying to stoke the fires of civil war, and they're led by a mysterious masked man named C. And, I think the only damn character whose name starts with C in the whole school is Crow. That's probably...
I believe that's accurate.
I'd have to check a list, but that's at least part of it. So it is a little telegraphed that Crow is C and is going to be the traitor, but it culminates in Crow mysteriously going missing the day after prom happens. Him doing things like returning all the items he's borrowed and leaving goodbye letters for everybody, and then at a big speech in the capital city, he shoots the chancellor, the sort of the commoner government sponsored leader of the city, and appears in a giant robot in a sort of in a multi-pronged attack on multiple cities. So the main group of students and a lot of the faculty try to defend the sort of academy town that is the main setting of the game, and Reen, the main character, finds his own giant robot at the bottom of this dungeon side quest that you've been doing for 65 hours, and it ends with a clash between Reen and Crow in their giant robots, with Crow just annihilating Reen and leaving him for dead,
right.
And so leading to a cliffhanger that goes into Cold Steel 2. But Crow's betrayal becomes like the central conflict of Cold Steel 1 and 2. Like part of Cold Steel 2 is Reen trying to find all of his missing classmates and finally make Crow answer to his crimes.
Right.
But it all is predicated on that big turn near the end of Cold Steel 1.
Yeah, I think Cold Steel 2, and I like a lot of the stuff that Cold Steel 2 does with Crow. I like the backstory they give him, because, Crow at the end of the day, I am totally on Crow's side. Like, bye Chancellor Osborne, I hate you.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, I really love the backstory they give him. Essentially, Chancellor Osborne, like, I won't go into it too much, but basically just buys out the entire area, the Jirai Economic Zone, I think it was called, and he, takes it over and basically makes Crow's grandfather bankrupt, and Crow hates it and he wants to overrun it, and, that's why he forms the Imperial Liberation Front, because all of these people have been affected by Chancellor Osborne's kind of overtakings for so long, and...
Yeah. Osborne has a lot of economically and sort of imperialistic, strategies that have made Erebonia bigger and stronger, but ruined the lives of a lot of people living on the frontier. And we know that Osborne is definitely, if not evil, at least overambitious. But Rufus Alborea is still a good person through the end.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course he is.
Absolutely.
I believe in that guy forever. There's no way he betrays you.
You've
Certainly
played
not.
Cold Steel 2 and you're still saying that. That's what's really annoying me.
I remember that.
Rufus did nothing wrong. Inside podcast joke from a year and a half ago. I apologize.
I think Crow, they do undo some of his, and I haven't played Cold Steel 3 or 4, obviously, but I think they make Reen and Crow a little more buddy-buddy than I'd like in Cold Steel 2. I don't know, I agree with Crow in general, but one of my problems with Cold Steel 2 is it tries to pretend like you as Reen are playing both sides and just trying to make peace.
Yeah.
But you're clearly on the path against the nobles, the entire time. You're doing everything to hurt the nobles. And somehow, it tries to play it both ways, and it does a very poor job of it, in my opinion. And so that kind of hurts Crow's characterization a little bit for me, because I feel like he should be calling Reen out for, you say you're this thing, but you are a hypocrite. So at least for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that generally. I mean, obviously it ends in a way that I'd still love Crow to a degree, but yeah, it ends in a pretty heartbreaking way. But yeah, I have major issues with how they deal with Reen and how he deals with the conflict in general in that game.
Yeah, the ending of Cold Steel 2 was a little bit dissatisfying because you resolved... Yeah, well, you resolve the civil war, like the fighting inside Erebonia stops, but then the power vacuum is filled by Osborne, who ended up somehow surviving his assassination attempt, and he starts going back to his evil ways that ruined the lives of Crow and others, and now Reen is working as a soldier for him. It's really unsettling, but and I think a lot of the conflict in 3 and 4 is sort of doing what's right and fighting back against your former allies from Cold Steel 1 and 2. It's definitely more complicated than that, but that's at least part of it. And yeah, there's still a lot unresolved in the Cold Steel verse, and I think at the end of Cold Steel 4, they said that they're about 60% of the way done. So geez, I think we're looking at a 15-game series, if my math is right.
We're on 10 now, so probably.
Yeah, so
I've played 2 of them.
15, 16 range.
I've only played 6 and I feel drowned.
I've played 4 and I'm drowning, but not quite at Alana's level yet, and which means that Caitlin has been drowned, revived, and is drowning again.
And Scott too.
Scott, yeah. Scott is a bit of a Kiseki evangelist, you could say.
Yeah. Sky the Third's the best one.
Really? Sky Third?
I think so. That's a controversial opinion, though.
My favorite is Sky Second.
I think 2 or 3 are usually the 2 that are pointed to, right? Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not. I don't know what the fandom really likes the crossbell duology.
I was going to say the consensus is Sky Second Chapter or the crossbell duology. I would say Sky
Third.
Second
Chapter is my favorite.
Sky the Third tends to be bottom. Oh well.
Okay.
There's no betrayals in Sky the Third.
Let's take an exit off this trail. Nathan, what's another game on our list that we should go over?
I think we should talk about Persona, though I can only weigh in on maybe 4 and 5, because I don't
Okay!
Alright, recency bias coming into effect here. Do we consider what June does, or what the other Maya does in Persona 2 to be a betrayal that we gotta talk about?
It's not really...
I wouldn't call either of them betrayals.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a betrayal.
Alright, in that case, we will not talk about Persona 2. Listeners, please listen to the Persona 2 Innocent Sin episodes if you haven't already. And let's go in reverse chronological order and start with Persona 5.
We talk about Akechi. We talk about Pancake Boy.
I mean, this is a situation... I'm pretty sure you were going to die or turn evil, like, the moment you meet him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it doesn't help that I played 5 after 3 and 4, so I already knew, from those, betrayals. The minute Akechi turns up, you're just at the end of the day, you're Phantom Thieves and he's a detective, so it's well... Of course, you're polar opposites, technically.
But unlike 3 and 4, they don't have the main character and the traitor have the same voice actor.
That's true, yeah.
So that they didn't give you that tell to work with.
I'm not a fan of Akechi at all, I'm afraid.
I wasn't either until I played Royal, and now I'm Akechi's biggest fan.
He was already popular before Royal, but what happens between the main character, Akechi, and the new girl, I think her name's Kasumi?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's more complicated exactly who and what all 3 of those characters are. But Akechi, towards the before the 7th dungeon of Persona 5, or actually no, we're going to run it back even further. In the very beginning of Persona 5, you and your crew are doing a heist in what appears to be a casino. And you're alone and you hear your 7 allies on the radio with you. And the cops are called on you, you're captured and thrown into an interrogation, and then you hear one of the cops mention he was sold out by one of his friends. So from the very beginning, you have this inkling of an idea. One of your friends is the rat. One of the main characters besides Joker is the rat. And it ends up being Akechi, who is a kid detective who is, on talk shows talking about the Phantom Thieves a lot. At first they're criminals, but he sort of supports them. He's a little bit back and forth. You're not really sure what to think of him. He does that thing where he ingratiates himself with the main character, kind of like how Crow does. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, you seem unusually buddy-buddy with me, even though I'm pretty sure that you already know we're the Phantom Thieves. And Nathan mentions pancakes, because one of the big clues that Akechi the traitor is because he can hear Morgana's voice months before he claims to have gained his persona powers, and you need to have persona powers and be in the cognitive world in order to think that Morgana is anything other than a normal cat. So that there's clues, but it ends up that Akechi has been working for his father the whole time. His father being Masayoshi Shido, the politician who is orchestrating the giant conspiracy that is the central villain for most of Persona 5. But the most interesting turn of all is Akechi's costume and persona.
Low-key.
Where, he's looking like some Donny Osmond, Freddie Mercury,
oh my God.
white suit with epaulettes outfit, with his persona being Robin Hood, and then he twists to being some JRPG boss, twisted black tar half mask outfit, with his persona being Loki, the trickster god of Norse myth. So his physical and visual transformation, I think, is more interesting than his plot transformation.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm not sure how deep I want to go into Persona 5 Royal spoilers, but the things that happen with Akechi and Royal that really have changed my opinion on Akechi, and I think it's something that everyone should be experienced if they play Persona 4.
All right, and let's go back in time a little bit and talk about Persona 4 for only 10 seconds, because we already have a whole episode about this. If you go a couple weeks ago, we have an episode called RPG Villains, the Persona 4 Killer, in which we discuss in great detail the traitor / serial killer from Persona 4 and everything, and it's a pretty deep dive. So I don't think we need to talk about him again for this podcast, and just skip right back to Persona 3. I think there's two characters that we could maybe consider the traitor here.
Yeah, I would agree. The first person who comes to mind for me is Shuji Ikutsuki, the person who... Itsukushi, sorry. Who's the person who forms...
Ikutsuki, yep. Mm-hmm.
The person who forms C's and is I think he's the head of the school, isn't he, that you go to? Something like that.
Yeah, I believe he's the chairman of the school board, not the principal, which are... but an authority figure like that, at least. Yeah.
Chief director of the high school and the chairman and the advisor of the C's, which is specialized extracurricular execution squad. So basically, the main story of Persona 3 is that you are part of a group of students called C's, and you are going out. You all have the ability to use personas, and you're basically going out and taking out the first 12 Arcana, I believe it is. So you've been told by Ikutsuki that you have to take out all of these shadows in order to free the school from Tartarus, or free it from the Midnight Hour. Turns out that that's not the case, and killing all 12 of them brings out the 13th one, called Death, which brings back Nyx and causes the end of the world. That is a very redacted version of Persona 3. But
yes,
yeah.
Basically, the mentor character says, we gotta kill these 12 shadow monsters, and you do so while seeing mysterious dreams about a boy and a bunch of other crazy stuff happening. But doing that does not save the world like you thought. It just summons a 13th monster who is the herald calling to an ultimate destruction goddess that is going to swallow the entire world in darkness. And sort of in between killing Monster 12 and the reveal of Nyx descending, Ikutsuki has this complete meltdown where he reveals that he's been a sort of a fanatical cultist for Nyx, that end of the world goddess, the whole time. He reprograms Hagues, your super android buddy, to take down the whole team. And there's a real dark image scene where everyone in your class is attached to a crucifix, even your dog.
Yeah, oh God, I remember this.
And he orders Hagues, the android, to execute you, but then at the last moment, Hagues resists her programming and stops Ikutsuki, and then you have to sort of get on with the resolution of the story from there. But the other betrayal, which is, I don't know, a less obvious one, but still very important, is your classmate. Oh shoot, I know he's Pharos in your dreams, but what's his real name? It starts with an R.
Oh, is it? Oh God.
Is it Ryoji or Ryuji?
I want to say that.
Oh
yes.
Shoot, I feel bad.
No, don't worry.
I should look it up. I should look this up ahead of time.
You're good. Ryoji.
It is Ryoji. Okay, one of my guesses was right. I've been watching a TV show where the main character's name is Ryotaro, and I knew that was wrong. But anyway, Ryoji is a classmate that sort of becomes a transfer student right around after you defeat the 12th Shadow. And until you defeat the 12th Shadow, you've been seeing mysterious dreams with a boy named Pharos visiting you in your dreams. And oversimplifying it a little bit, Ryoji is that 13th monster, but he's not aware of it because there had been a death shadow imprisoned in the main character's body, who is represented by Pharos, the boy in his dreams. And after you defeated the 12th shadow monster, the death shadow left your body and becomes Ryoji. But when Ryoji tells you all of this, I think in December 3rd, like in the first week of December, and he gives you a month to decide whether to let the world end or to try and resist it. But if you let the world end, he'll erase your memory so you can let it go peacefully.
Right, yeah. Doesn't Hagues figure it out to a degree? She, senses something inside of him and alerts you, yeah.
But Ryoji is not aware of it for the whole time, but then something awakens in him and it becomes very clear to him. And so, when Ryoji tells you that he is the avatar of Nyx and is going to herald the end of the world, it's a sad betrayal. He won't look you in the eye. He is completely dejected. I think he apologizes a lot, but is resigned to the fact that that's what's going to happen because he thinks it's impossible for Seas to defeat Nyx, which is, spoiler, mostly what ends up happening. But yeah, Persona 3 has this weird tone of sort of darkness and inevitability. Like at the beginning, you have to sign a contract that you will take responsibility for your actions, and people are not really people get apathy syndrome when they're attacked by shadows, which is less like them being murdered or killed violently and more that they're just succumbing to complete apathy and just accepting the end of the world as an inevitability. It's a weird vibe that is dark and off for a JRPG that persists through the whole game and just goes to a new level after the big reveal / betrayal from Ryoji. It haunts you if you're invested for the whole way through.
That last month is really dour, isn't it? Yeah.
And if you play the female route on the PSP version, where you can choose between a male and female MC, Ryoji is basically dateable. Like Ryoji has a romantic interest in the female main character, and it's not the same as a romance route with Shinjiro or Akihiko, but there is a slight romantic attraction that makes the relationship between the main character and Ryoji feel a little different. That's
interesting.
That is, I don't know how it's not that explicit, but it's. The reveal from Ryoji feels different with the implication that he's interested in you romantically.
I'm sure it would, yeah.
So, yeah, that's a lot of the end game of Persona 3 spoiled. I hope you managed to pause and skip ahead in time, listeners. But let's see. What is something else we got to talk about? Niki, give us the next topic.
How about Apollo Justice Ace Attorney?
Okay!
Now, the whole Ace Attorney series in general does not have a ton of betrayals necessarily, but there's a lot of impressive character turns, especially within cases, when you realize that, this witness was actually the villain. And you could name probably dozens of traitors / betrayals / turns. But in Apollo Justice, you get a character turn that definitely is a betrayal, that starts in Chapter 1 and goes through the final chapter and hangs over the whole game and is really powerful. Let's talk about the Gavin siblings, shall we?
Oh boy. Now, it's been a very long time since I've played Apollo Justice, but I still remember Kristoff very, very well. And it's because, so this is kind of, I guess, a warning for Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice, too.
Yep. Basically, chapters 4, 5, and 6 in the Ace Attorney saga.
Yeah, like the first 3 games are like their own trilogy, and then the Apollo Justice and then the 2 on the 3DS are also kind of like their own trilogy, which is really really well thought out, I feel. I know Apollo Justice, the game, gets a lot of flack, some rightfully, but I think the way they tied that all together is really nice. And it all kind of comes back to Kristoff, because throughout the games, and then even more so in Dual Destinies, you can really see how Kristoff kind of affected Apollo as his mentor. When Apollo is put on the stand in Dual Destinies, he does the exact same thing as Kristoff. He crosses his arms, he puts his head up, and he says evidence is everything in court. He's very heavily influenced by him, right? And even Clavier, right, the younger brother, I believe, of Kristoff,
yep.
was very influenced by him as well. I believe they imply that the reason why Clavier drew his hair out was to be more like his brother.
Yeah.
But it turns out that the brother is all too eager to murder people.
Yeah, Kristoff Gavin he's the tutorial character. He's the mentor for Apollo Justice, who stands beside him in the first case of Apollo Justice Ace Attorney, which is the first game of the new trilogy, and has every appearance to be a very wise, kindly guy. But then at the end of the first case, with Phoenix Wright on the stand, it's basically revealed that Kristoff was involved in a plot including multiple murders. Mm-hmm. That involves tampering evidence and people way high up in the government and in the court system. And he's brought to justice in the first case, so it seems like he's just the first boss of the game. But then, as you learn more about the conspiracy, he comes back in the final case, and I believe you have to interrogate him in prison. Mm-hmm. And he's brought down not by evidence, because Kristoff Gavin is a genius with manipulating evidence and the letter of the law, but by a jury trial, because Kristoff basically says, you can't take me, there's not enough evidence, and he basically triumphantly says that he's untouchable. But then Phoenix Wright reminds him, you remember this is the first experimental jury trial in the history of our country, right? And all the jury is going to convict you, and that's sort of what brings him down. But then repercussions from that conspiracy from Apollo Justice resonates into Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice, as Niki said. And also, Clavier Gavin, Kristoff's younger brother, is the rival character, the rival prosecutor in Apollo Justice, and he sort of half blames, half thanks Apollo for what happened to his brother, because he admires his brother, and Kristoff was very influential to both of them, as Niki said. But what he did is undeniably evil. So the Gavins in general are really interesting villain and rival characters in the second Ace Attorney trilogy. But what Kristoff does in Apollo Justice is a hell of a betrayal. It's really cool. You should play all of those if you haven't. I think that like Apollo Justice does sort of get a bad rap, but I think that trilogy, each game is better than the previous one. It's awesome.
Absolutely agree. The last words that Apollo Justice say in the Apollo Justice game end up happening in Spirit of Justice, so it's a really satisfying conclusion. All right, so I'm glad we got to talk about Ace Attorney on the podcast. We haven't done that in like 2 years. So, Zach, what's the next betrayal we should go over?
All right, well, you called it last time. Let's go ahead and go with it this time. Nier. OG Nier.
OG Nier.
Okay!
Are we talking about certain siblings?
We are.
Maybe, yeah.
We're talking about Devila and Popola, and it goes back to the idea I talked about at the beginning, where you understand. And actually, I think that probably Devila and Popola are, before what they do at the end of this game, more in the right than you are as the main character. So the idea of Nier, and again, spoilers, if you haven't played the original Nier, and it's coming out again in April, stop listening. So the idea of Nier is that you, there's an illness that is going around, and you play, in the American version at least, or the Western version, a dad of a girl named Yona who is sick, and you're trying to fight this group of things called shades, and you think that they are potentially responsible for what's called the Black Scrawl, which makes people ill. And as you are fighting around throughout, you're sort of guided by these two twins named Devila and Popola in your town, who seem to know a little bit more than you do, but you don't really know much beyond that. And it turns out that the shades that you are fighting are actually humans who are waiting to be reimplanted. They're souls that are waiting to be reimplanted into you as sort of a... I don't know. I'm trying to think of the right word for it. Alana, what was the right word for it?
Oh, God. I'm going to get my replicants and my gestalts mixed up, aren't I?
Replicants,
yeah.
Yes. You're a replicant. You're a replicant that is a shell that is meant to, once the pandemic goes away, you're going to be the souls will be reinserted. And it turns out that Devila and Popola all along have been working for the Shades, or the real humans, if you want to call them that. It's always more complicated than that in a Nier game. But I love just how... because ultimately their betrayal is of both the replicants and the Gestalts, because they ultimately destroy everything, because you destroy one of the twins and then the other one goes insane. And they destroy the project and destroy you as a result. The consequences of that are followed up in Automata. And there are androids who have been sort of fighting for the Shades all along. And again, they're really the ones who are in the right, sort of, I guess, thinking that our souls as humans are more valuable than souls of replicants. I don't know. It's interesting. I love the way they play with morality in these games, and I love these two characters, especially what they do in Automata to follow up on it, and the way they deal with their guilt about what happens here.
Yeah, really. I remember getting to that end game of original Nier and just thinking, hang on a minute. So if I go through and kill the Shadow Lord, who is the Gestalt version of the main character, who has kidnapped your daughter because it's their daughter as well. If you kill that Gestalt, that soul, you have basically killed the last version of that, and you have doomed the entire world to... Yeah, you've doomed humanity, basically. And it's so interesting, because all this time, it's like, what do you want to do? You want to do the best for your daughter, or do you want to do the best for the world? And it's just such an interesting moral dilemma to be put into, and the twins being traitors really, really shocked me. I did not predict it. I'm pretty good at this. I did not see it coming at all, and because they're so sweet, and because I love it. It's one of my favorite things about that game, which everything's phenomenal, but whatever. Yeah.
Are you talking about the music, the story, the comedy?
Oh.
I know that the twins were the traitors in original Nier, even though I haven't beaten that game, because there are two different twins in Nier Automata, and when the story is sort of hitting the end game, they discuss how two earlier versions of them were the catalysts for all the bad things that happened in between Nier and Nier Automata. And they have a lot of regret about the actions of those two twins. So it's interesting how in the moment it's a blatant manipulation and betrayal, but afterwards, the other siblings of those traitors just are full of regret, and it's sad. The ending, everything near the end of Nier Automata is just so sad.
Yeah. I think the ending is kind of exalting, actually.
Yeah.
The end of the original Nier, that's all sad.
Well, okay, I think that Yoko Taro has a thing for a beautiful tragedy, because that's a lot of his writing ends in that way, and begins and continues in that way.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to get that Nier remake. I have it on PS3, but the remake is going to be the opportunity for me
I
to...
already pre-ordered the special edition.
I was going to say, I've got the White Snow edition already.
Oh, man. I'm going to get Nier to a copy of Nier when the time comes.
April 23rd.
So, okay, sticking to October 2020 and not April 2021. Alana, what's the next game or series we're going to discuss?
I feel like there's a big one we're missing, and I think it's the Tales series, which I think may be simultaneously the most exhaustive, but I kind of love what they do with Betrayals. Like, nearly every game, it's a joke, nearly every game in this series has a traitor, you know? Like, even
You want to talk about some anime betrayals. Tales of is extremely anime and has a betrayal in more than half of the games, I think.
Okay!
Yeah, and I think, like, Kane is the original traitor, I get it, but, like, the first traitor who always comes to my mind when anyone's like, oh, you know, video game betrayals, it's Leon Magnus from Tales of Destiny, I think. Just for the sheer, like, again, in a similar vein to, like, Kane, he has been manipulated by his father, who in turn has also been manipulated and possessed by a spirit in a swordian, which is a talking sword, and
talking sword that gives the user magic powers.
Yes, that's right. And so for the whole game, like, Leon, I think the first time you meet Leon, he arrests you, if I remember correctly, and puts you in prison, and then he's kind of forced to watch you along the whole way. Is that right?
He's like a knight captain in one of the kingdoms. And he, like, when you negotiate your way out of imprisonment, he sort of accompanies you as, like, your chaperone for a mission, and then he joins your party more permanently. But you still think of him as like a knight captain from one of the kingdoms in the game. But then like after you get a sacred artifact and it looks like that the kingdoms are doing a good thing. Leon's father, who's a wealthy industrialist, basically him and his son betray everyone and take the artifact and start the world shaping evil endgame. And Leon dies, sort of holding you off while his father escapes.
He drowns, doesn't he? Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that he's one of the only ones we've mentioned on this list that actually doesn't really get a redemption at all. Like, yeah, well, not in that game, right? Okay,
yes,
okay,
all right, because the conversation does not stop with Tales of Destiny here, but let's continue.
Yeah, so I think this is what the Tales series is a bit guilty of. Same with Trails. Many of the traitors get a little bit of a redemption arc, and it's all buddy-buddy and everything. Leon doesn't get that until Destiny 2, when they literally revive him and call him Judas to make it really obvious that he's a traitor.
First of all, the mask that he wears doesn't even cover half of his face.
Right.
If you've played Destiny 1 and then you go straight into Destiny 2, the Japanese Destiny 2, because Destiny 2 is a different thing in North America. It's confusing. We're sorry. But basically, Leon dies defending his father, who's straight up evil at this point in Destiny 1, and he did that because his father was holding the girl that Leon loved hostage. Yeah. And even though Leon's biological sister is one of the main party members.
And he knows that, but he doesn't tell anyone.
And Leon knows that. Yeah, Leon knows it, but I don't think Stan or Rudy do.
No.
But then in Tales of Destiny 2, there's a sorceress who's sort of manipulating timelines to suit her wants, and she revives Leon at the beginning of the game, I think before the story even takes place. And you learn about it in cutscenes or something. But Leon revives. He's like, "Why did you revive me? I should be dead." He refuses to work with her and puts on a mask and renames himself, and he eventually gets named Judas. I don't remember. I don't know if he chooses it or someone else does. But it's so painfully obvious it's him because you can see his full face. He's holding. He has like the same sword he had in Destiny, and he named himself Judas. I mean, come on. It's extremely obvious. But
he has a different colored cape, so
it's true.
The same character, right?
Man.
Like, there's no way.
Yeah, you don't just give up on a pink cape like that.
No.
I mean, the Dragon Quest III hero said so. It's like, no, you're wearing pink. You're staying in pink.
Exactly.
Oh, definitely. Rather than go through every game in the series, I want to know if anybody has a favorite game or a traitor in this series who has played enough of them, I suppose.
Let's see. Well, my favorite to make fun of is Alvin and Zillia.
He's my favorite.
But my actual favorite, I think, is probably Raven and Vesperia.
Ooh, yeah, I like that one too. I think. Oh, I'm so annoyed that I didn't get this one either when I played it the first time. Like, it seems so obvious when
Raven or Alvin, because you have to blind.
Yeah.
You have to be blind not to guess Alvin is the traitor.
But I think Alvin is really interested in Exilia because this is what I really like about it, is that you're not trying to find out he's the traitor. You know he's the traitor. You know he's working for Exodus, which is a group of people who from, I'm going to spoil Exilia for you now. He's working for a group of people from another world. Exilia does the two worlds thing. The other world, I've forgotten what the name of it's called. Thank you. Yes, it is. Yeah. So they're from Olympias, and they were on a cruise ship that crashed through a schism in the barrier that protects the two worlds, and all of these Olympians came over, and Alvin's father died, and his mother got really sick because of some really terrible things his uncle did, and his uncle is manipulating Alvin to she got really sick, and his uncle had the cure for it, so he kept giving it to her and said, right, if you work for me, I will keep healing your mother, but if you don't, then I'll let her die, kind of thing. So Alvin is kind of forced into a corner and has to do it. But Alvin's a bit of a disaster in that he basically tries to, he makes friendships and then destroys them through what he does. One of the villains in Exilia is Pressa. She's one of the 4 Chimeriad, which are the weak version of the god generals from Tales of the Abyss.
I love it when they give you a numbered group of villains that are all in a weird hierarchy. It's whenever I learn the name of a new enforcer in a Trails game, I get excited because I don't know. I think it's the Tokusatsu fan in me. Just give me ranked, numbered groups of villains to defeat one by one, please.
Yeah. And they dated, and he betrays her, and she goes out of her way when you encounter her in game with Jude and Mila. She goes out of her way to say, you should not trust that guy. Even though she's fighting you, she's like, you should not trust Alvin. And Jude's like, no, I trust him. It's Jude, come on. He's going off to toilet breaks all the time. How can you do this? Literally.
Yeah, it's he'll...
Guy gets messenger pigeons.
Yeah, it's like he'll get a messenger pigeon, then says, "Oh, I'm going to go get a drink," and then you see a cutscene in first person with a bad guy talking to someone in the shadows, and it happens 5 times.
It's incredible.
It's so nakedly obvious that he's going to betray you, but Jude continues to believe in him. I didn't finish Xillia, but I don't know if there's been a Tales game where I've yelled at the main characters more than this one.
No, that's fair enough, yeah.
And I yelled at Luc Fonfabre a lot.
You do, yeah, that's appropriate, I think. I don't know, I love Alvin to bits, though, just because he's so messed up. He's been through so much that he's so warped in his mind that he thinks that he's doing the right thing in a way, but he's having a conflict with himself. And if you... this is dependent, because you can pick between Jude and Mila, and if you pick Mila, you get a lot less... You get certain parts that are shown off to you more. You have certain conversations with Alvin, with Mila at certain times. But there's a really important part at the beginning of Chapter 4, which is probably my favourite part in the entire game, if you pick Jude, that has a confrontation between Jude and Alvin, and I think it really, really sells Alvin's kind of conflict. I mean, he's definitely not the best traitor in the series, but I've got a massive soft spot for him.
I should restart Xillia because I am interested in that game. I haven't beaten a Tales game more recent than Vesperia, but I kind of want to pick Mila or Milia next time because the best character in the game is her hair, and I just want to get more of Mila's hair. I think
her hair doesn't operate.
Nope, it's its own character. It's like Joe Musashi's scarf in the Shinobi remake.
Yeah. But yeah, this series isn't notorious. You said Raven.
I want to talk about Raven for just a minute because what he goes through is also pretty wild. Throughout Raven, he does the thing that he has droopy eyes. He gets too buddy with the main characters. You sort of suspect that he clearly knows more than what he's aware of. He seems to know all the goings on in the military and in the guild system, but what's really happened is that he's high up in the military and the guild system because of something that happened as a younger man. His real name is Schwan, which is a little crazy when you get that reveal because you mentioned the Schwan Brigade. You hear the Schwan Brigade mentioned and Schwan being a hero of the military several times over the course of the game. Like oh yeah, Schwan is a guy, maybe we'll end up fighting him or something. And Schwan died in a battle that had a large cover up before the start of the series, and but then what's the word for devices of magic power in this?
Blastia.
A Blastia, yeah. A Blastia is inserted in him that keeps him alive, and he basically becomes he maintains being Schwann, working for the military, but also becomes sort of a secret agent of the government with this new persona of Raven. And as Raven, he gets involved in the guilds and becomes a high-ranking member of the guilds, and also secretly helps Yuri and Flynn and the other main characters of Tales of Vesperia, and temporarily joins their party, being, an open-robed, lazy weirdo that fights with a bow and a sword. His weapon's
weird.
His
so
weapon is
hard to
complicated.
control. Yeah,
It's hard. He's weird to control, and it's even weird to explain just watching him fight. But basically, Raven is a dead man who's being kept alive by a device in his chest, who's playing both sides, and is. But one of his sides is known for almost the whole game, but not revealed until a boss battle in around the 3/4 or 2/3 mark. It's I sort of believed that Raven was a traitor, especially since he knew so much more than he let on.
Yeah.
But I was still shocked that Schwann ended up being him.
Yeah, that was the reveal that got me. I think I knew he was going to do something, but I didn't ever put two and two together, especially when you're at the Wizened of Carlos, when you're running away from the desert and you're going back to Nordopolica and Raven
which is where the battle that he died in took place. Near there. Mm-hmm.
That's right, yeah, it's at Mount Temsa. And Raven stops, and those two soldiers that you do all the tutorial fights against, they're from the Schwann Brigade, and he puts on a voice, and I still didn't, and they stop, and they're like, "Yes, Captain," and I still didn't pick it up the first time I played it through.
Yeah, and Raven is a black bird, and a Swan or Schwann is a white bird. They give you plenty of clues. There's foreshadowing here.
I was an idiot.
Yeah, but I was really I really like Vesperia, especially their cast, and I think that Raven is his betrayal and his redemption. I thought felt pretty earned, because he was being manipulated. His loved ones are being threatened, and he was being threatened to have the thing inside his body get turned off or removed if he betrayed his superiors. But they ended up finding a way around that. But the whole team basically reaccepts him with his apology near the end of the game.
Kind of, but they all just hit him and then it's okay, and I'm just no, hang on a minute. No, that's not fair.
Oh, and also he complains about aches and pains through the whole game. And you think it's because he's in his 30s, but really it's because his body can't catch up to the Blastia inside of him.
Yeah, I know. I've been a bit unfair.
I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, me too.
But anyway, we're past the 75-minute mark, so I'm going to talk about one more game at length, and then we're going to end the episode. So we're only really talking about 10 games or series as traitors, but we could go on longer and longer, but I'm just going to do one last one, and that's the game that I am playing literally right now, or I should say literally a few hours ago, but I've been playing YakuZa 1, or I should say YakuZa Kiwami.
Okay!
Which is only the second Yakuza game I've ever played. I played Yakuza 0 for this podcast a few months ago. But it got me interested in the rest of the series, so I started up Yakuza 1, and the whole game is about a betrayal. And playing Yakuza 0 and then seeing in which the traitor is a major character and not a traitor, only for this whole game to be about these two best friends completely destroying their friendship is incredible to behold. The main character, Kiryu, and his best friend Nishiki, or Nishikiyama, but they all call him Nishiki, we grew up in the same orphanage and grew up and joined the Yakuza at the same time. And a bunch of stuff happens with their mutual friend Yumi, who's a girl from the same orphanage, and a Yakuza boss sexually assaults her. And Nishiki, who goes to the scene first, shoots and kills the Yakuza boss. And Kiryu arrives a few minutes later, grabs the gun, and tells Yumi and Nishiki to get the hell out of there. So Kiryu takes the fall for Nishiki's crime killing a Yakuza boss and goes to jail for 10 years. And when he gets back, instead of Nishiki, thanking him or trying to help him, it turns out Nishiki's been slowly rising in the ranks through a series of murders and betrayals, and now wants to take over the whole Yakuza organization and frame Kiryu for it. And how you arrive there is amazing. Like, because Kiryu still trusts Nishiki. Like, Kiryu didn't have to take the fall for the murder Nishiki committed. He could have just let the police catch Nishiki and continue being a Yakuza, but he cares so much about Nishiki and Yumi that he took the fall for him. And over the course of the game, you see flashbacks of Nishiki, like, accruing a large medical debt and hearing superiors saying, "Man, I wish that it was Kiryu here instead of Nishiki." And there's even a metaphor on the tattoos on their backs because Kiryu has a dragon tattoo on his back and Nishiki has a tattoo of carp going up a waterfall. And it's folkloric in Japan that if a carp gets to the top of a waterfall, it can become a dragon. Where, like, Kiryu is sort of the better person and the tougher person, and Nishiki is kind of a screw-up and is always being compared to Kiryu. And Nishiki, just 10 years of people not believing him and people and him feeling resentful about Kiryu basically make him go from being the genuine good friend from Yakuza 0 into a power-hungry monster who will kill anyone and do anything for more power in Yakuza 1. And me playing Yakuza 0, where Nishiki is just like your best friend who helps you get out of trouble a couple times, to this person where the entire plot of the game is Nishiki's revenge plot and trying to track down Yumi, and Kiryu trying to fight off Yakuza that still think he killed that Yakuza boss from the beginning flashback. It's amazing. The entire game is about about one person betraying his best friend. And it's just so powerful. I think the game has 12 or 13 chapters, and I'm on chapter 7. But I cannot wait to play more of it and hopefully punch Nishiki in the face a lot.
I'm sure you'll get to. I mean, I'm surprised. Maybe I'm not surprised, because this is Yakuza 1, isn't it? Right? So,
yeah, I'm playing the remake of Yakuza 1.
Okay, so I'm wondering whether this is going to happen again, because, Kiryu seems to get himself into lots of the same situations, or...
Yeah, there's a lot of something happened years ago and now it's coming to a head and Kiryu's in the center of it, and a lot of character turns that are surprising, and some betrayals. There's some minor betrayals in Yakuza 0 that are sometimes just misunderstandings and sometimes much more powerful. But Yakuza 1 is entirely about this betrayal, how Nishiki resents Kiryu, and Kiryu would do anything for Nishiki, and that just makes Nishiki furious. There's cutscenes or flashbacks to what happens to Nishiki during Kiryu's imprisonment, and Nishiki just keeps getting compared to Kiryu and keeps finding setbacks, and he just gets more and more pissed off, and it culminates in him, instead of welcoming Kiryu back with open arms like brothers, just determined to end Kiryu's life. It's the worst, but I definitely want to punch him. A lot of shirtless punching in the Yakuza games. A lot of two men staring each other down. They both somehow take off shirts, jackets, and undershirts with a single motion, and then they start punching each other. So if you're into that, then that's the series for you, let me tell you.
Sounds great.
Mm-hmm. I kind of want to play all of them now, which is, I think, a feeling that our mutual friend John O'Logan had about a year ago.
It was.
Yeah, but I don't know how far I'll get, but I'll at least play through YakuZa Kiwami because I have to see that betrayal through to the end. And speaking of going through to the end, oh my god, we're at almost 90 minutes, and look at the rest of this list that we have here. Danganronpa, Tactics Ogre, Pokemon Black and White, Xenogears, Xenoblade, Octopath, Baten Kaitos, Seventh Saga, Lunar, The Silver Star, Dragon Age, Mass Effect, Jade Empire, that's the BioWare corner, I guess, World Ends With You, a bunch of East games, a bunch of Disgaea games, Diablo. There is a lot of traitors we didn't cover, but I want this episode to stay under 2 hours and not hit all the way up to 20 hours. So, hopefully, listeners, we haven't ruined that many games or series for you, and just having fun talking about our favorite traitors and betrayals. If you think there's one that we missed or really should have gone to, please send us an email or bug us on Discord, or even comment on the RPG Fan main website, because now news articles can have comments. Isn't that wild?
It's 2020, kids.
Yeah. Wow, we're behaving like 2006 and 2020. Maybe we should have added dig.com links to all of our news articles. So, listeners, thanks for listening to us. Thank you, Alana, Nathan, Zach, and first-time panelist Niki for joining me on this episode. We have a lot planned for the rest of 2020, but let's stick to October for now. Next week, we are doing an episode to accompany a feature. Zach, you spearheaded the feature that was trying to find out the best RPG of every year. There was even a large vote, both by staff and by listeners or readers.
That's true.
Yeah, and we're publishing the written version of that very soon. I think it'll be in the next several days. We're in the first week of October right now. Mm-hmm. So listeners, if you can't read that feature right now, you will be able to soon. But we're doing a podcast to accompany that feature where we look at all of those lists of games that came out in every year and try to determine the best year for RPGs. It's a top 10 list where we just discuss 10 years in detail and why they're the best years of RPGs and count down from 10 to 1. So if you want to find out what the best year of RPGs is, listen to next week's episode and read that feature once it hits sometime in the next several days. Later this month, after the best year of RPGs, we're doing 2 episodes on Phantasy Star 4. It'll be the first Genesis game I complete that was not with friends at a sleepover.
Shocking.
And I'm looking forward to that. I've only just started it a few days ago on my Genesis / Mega Drive Mini, and it looks great. It's been fun for the less than 100 minutes I'm playing it, but I will definitely have more to say in 2 weeks when we do the first of those episodes. And also coming in November, I think I can announce this now. It's Ladies' Night at Retro Encounter because we are doing Final Fantasy X-2, the sequel to the second game Retro Encounter ever covered, and a PlayStation 2 game that's been remade for every PlayStation since that has really, really pretty menus, and other than that, I have nothing to say until we record those episodes. But if you have comments on the best year of RPGs or Phantasy Star 4 or Final Fantasy X-2 or Traitors or anything at all, please email us, retro@rpgfan.com. That's the best way to find us directly. You can also check out the main website, rpgfan.com, comment on the boards, comment on pages, visit our Facebook page, our Instagram page, our Twitter page, our Discord server, our Twitch channel, something streaming every day on those Twitch channels. And if you search for RPG Fan or RPG Fan.com, you can find all of the ways we are represented on the internet. And we also have 3 other podcasts. There's Random Encounter about randomness and posted every 2 weeks. Rhythm Encounter about RPG music and also posted every 2 weeks for the first time since 2017. We're all thrilled about Retro Encounter. We are thrilled about Retro Encounter, but we are also thrilled about Rhythm Encounter's return. And also Phoenix Edge, our affiliated podcast that is weekly and mostly focuses on current events. You can review Retro Encounter and those other 3 podcasts on iTunes or Google Play or whatever podcast listening venue you use. Please rate, review us, give us feedback. We love all of it. So before we sign off for real, let's tell the listeners how they can reach us individually, starting with you, Zach.
You can reach me via email at zachw@rpgfan.com, or you can find me on Discord at zachw.
And Alana, your turn.
You can find me on Twitter at Alana Hagues. I am on RPG Fans Discord as Alana, or if you want to email me, my address is alanah@rpgfan.com.
And Niki, tell the listeners where they can find you.
Nowhere yet.
All right. That's weird, because I'm pretty sure I follow you on Twitter, but we're going to let that slide and move on to Nathan. How can listeners find you?
You can find me at Smashking27 on Twitter, and I'm on our Discord, and my name on there.
All right, so from Nathan, Niki, Alana, and Zach, did we figure out who the traitor was? Or did we complete all of our tasks in time? Who's the imposter?
I still have tasks left over.
Oh, no. Well, there's 5 of us left. Maybe we can finish them in time before we...
Oh, no. Are you going to die before you give out your social media? Is that the problem?
At The Real Monsoon, at Evoker for Dogs. Good night. Good luck.
Baka mitai kodomo nano ne yume wo ootte kizutsuite 嘘が下手なくせに笑えない笑顔を見せた I love you もろくに言わない口下手で